In the best of the rest of the news, you may think of Andrew Carnegie as the guy who endowed Carnegie Hall, or whose foundation gives all that money to NPR. But in reality, Carnegie was a killer. Of course, he didn't get his very, very rich hands dirty with his murderous deeds. He hired Pinkerton and others to kill his workers who got out of line, like 6 steel workers who died in 1892 when they stood up to Carnegie and struck his Homestead Steel Works. 43 years later, President Franklin D. Roosevelt oversaw the legalization of unions with the National Labor Relations Act of 1935, and workers had the legal ability to prevent employers from killing them, from stealing from them, or from forcing them to work in dangerous conditions. From the time robber baron Carnegie had his workers murdered until the passage of the National Labor Relations Act, about 10% of the American workforce was unionized. With government protection from that era's billionaire robber baron thugs, union membership rapidly rose to about 1/3 of all American workers by the 1970s. And then came the ultimate shill for, to paraphrase Thomas Jefferson, the well-born and the well-bred. That man, of course, was the man who ran the most corrupt administration in American history, with more indicted and convicted senior officials than any other president since the founding of the Republic. Ronald Reagan had made a deal with the Air Traffic Controllers Union, PATCO, to let them strike in exchange for their support of his candidacy in 1980. So they supported him, officially. But keeping his word was never all that important to Reagan. So when they went on strike, he fired them all and destroyed their union. As Leo Gerard, United Steelworkers president, noted in a Labor Day piece for the Huffington Post, following in the robber baron's anti-union footsteps, Allegheny Technologies has locked out over 2,000 unionized workers in a raw power display designed to destroy their union. The workers had offered to keep working through the contract negotiations, but ATI locked them out anyway and brought in workers from Strom Engineering, a company that supplied similar replacement workers to American Crystal Sugar when they locked out their workers a few years ago. The Republican anti-union efforts of the past 34 years have been so successful that there are roughly the same percentage of unionized workers today as there were back when Andrew Carnegie was giving orders leading to the death of his workers. And they want to keep it that way because it's very, very profitable. After the passage of the 1935 labor law, CEOs saw their wages go down to roughly 30 times that of their workers. And about 70% of all new wealth created by worker productivity went to the workers, with the remaining 30% going to stockholders and CEOs. Today, not only is all the increased wealth created by America's workers going to the top 1%, but workers' wages have actually been flat since Reagan's day and have gone down since 2009. Here to defend the modern-day robber barons who want to prevent workers from sharing in any of the fruits of their labors is Neil McCabe, political reporter with One American News. Neil, welcome back.
Hey, glad to be with you, Tom.
I love setting you up like that.
Now on behalf of the banksters, right?
Right. And, I did that once, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
All right.
So we're talking about the race to the bottom, Tom.
That's right.
I think that one of the things is that I think most Americans, most conservative Republicans, would appreciate a healthy labor movement. I think there's an affection and an understanding that there should be some kind of union organization and that it has a place.
Eisenhower worked hard to expand unions. He bragged about how he had added 2 million members of the unions in '56.
You know, and there is something.
But he was the last Republican to talk like that, wasn't he?
Well, I mean, they're still around. I think the problem is that, you know, before I went to Iraq, the one time I really felt that I was in personal danger was I ended up somehow in the middle of a bunch of union carpenters in front of Faneuil Hall who were protesting Mitt Romney. And it's like, they were big guys, and they had sticks, and I made some kind of flip remark that I shouldn't have, and they swarmed on me. I really thought they were gonna beat me up. I mean,
but nobody hurt you.
Not yet.
No,
I mean, I was able to. I was able.
You were not wearing a Pinkerton uniform.
No, but you know, but union violence is a very serious thing that people ignore. And
violence against workers is a very serious thing.
And I agree.
You know,
obviously,
30,000, 40,000 people a year die in the workplace.
Sure, and we remember the Greyhound strike was very violent, and there have been other occasions, you know, where the intimidation of what people call scabs. And I think that, you know, there are a lot of people who need work, and that these jobs, these steel jobs, say in Allegheny, you know, I'm guessing that's Western Pennsylvania, those jobs don't belong to the union guys. and there are probably people around who would want that job and maybe would work for less. And, you know, they're not the property of the unions anymore. And I think that we kind of moved into like a feudalism with the fact that these unions felt that they had a right to these jobs, to work in this factory. You had to join the union.
I think you have it backwards. The feudalism is when the robber barons own the show, down to the point where they basically own you and your home and the underwear you're wearing. And that's what we're back to now.
Sure, and it's like, I mean, I lived in former housing of a company town in the Mills in Rhode Island, and I understand that system. I think there has to be a way for unions that provide health insurance and benefits and are a voice for the workers. Nobody has a problem for that.
Oh, absolutely. The entire Republican Party does, because those people tend to fund Democrats.
But what happens, Tom, seriously, what happens is people get angry about all of those dues going to Democrats. They get angry about closed shops not having the right to work. And then you get...
No, the billionaires get angry about this, and they go out and they tell people that they should be angry. Workers generally are not angry. They generally like their unions. This is a list of things that were 100%, every single one of these things brought to us as a result of unions. Stop me when we hit the things that you think
I know, you invented the weekend.
The weekend.
Half of that was God, though. God gave us Sunday.
All breaks at work, including lunch. Unions fought for lunch, paid vacation, family leave, sick leave, Social Security, the minimum wage, civil rights, the 8-hour workday, overtime pay, child labor laws, Occupational Safety and Health Act, 40-hour work week, workers' comp, unemployment insurance, pensions, workplace safety standards, employer health care insurance, collective bargaining rights, wrongful termination laws, age discrimination. You know, I've only got 90 seconds. I'm halfway through my list.
But I think the problem is that there's an extreme.
Well, and the extreme is do away with the unions, which is the absolute commitment of the Republican Party.
Because there's no other way. I mean, look at these.
There's no other way.
Well, look at
I'd say do away with Taft-Hartley and allow, stop this right to work for less state stuff.
What happened? Because the unions helped drive these industries out of this country.
That is not true.
It is true.
That is absolutely not true.
No, it is true.
It was a change in our trade policies that changed that. Before our trade policies changed, workers stayed in this country because jobs stayed in this country. It had nothing to do with unions or not unions.
You couldn't. You had to liberalize trade.
Because who says?
Well, it's not fair. It's not fair.
To whom?
Well, it's not fair to the guy who has to pay $20 for a $10 hammer. It's not fair to the guy who has to...
You mean the guy who's making $30 an hour instead of $8 an hour?
No, but the factory, right? There are factories now that they bake the pastries, they send them to Canada for the glaze and the sugar, and then send them back because of the trade protections for sugar. I mean, the trade tariffs and the protections are basically picking winners and losers.
Yeah, and I would like to go back to a trade policy that picks American workers as winners. And then there'll be enough demand for work that but the unions will tighten up.
Or the workers could compete because of their hard work and the quality and their craftsmanship.
And they can go to beg a billionaire who runs a corporation with 5,000 employees. Please be nice to me.
They could have the heart of a servant, Tom.
Right. Neil, it's always great to see you.
Good to be with you, Tom.
Thank you for dropping.